Welcome to Fool's Key Tarot. I'm Ben, and this is a daily reading for Thursday, May 22nd, 2025. Let's see what the cards have in store for us. First, the King of Swords. This can represent a scientist or a philosopher or maybe a mathematician, maybe not professionally, but somebody who is good at those things. Next, the Four of Swords, the second Swords card. This one is more restful, more contemplative, represents retreat and withdrawal, in particular after some kind of conflict. Maybe the King of Swords has gotten themselves into a conflict and needs to rest. Our final card is the Ace of Cups, representing a new feeling or the beginning of a relationship or some kind of strong emotion that can overtake you, usually in a way that's surprising or is a different kind of reaction to something that you've interacted with before. Suddenly it just hits you different, or you see it in a different way, or maybe you don't see it in a different way, but your feelings about it are very different, and that might even be confusing. But this card signifies that there's some kind of overwhelming emotion that is coming into your mind, maybe from a new stimulus, maybe from an old stimulus. Because of the Four of Swords in the center, I think that maybe during a retreat or a withdrawal from a conflict, because the sword suit is about conflict, and there is a second swords card here. So I'm seeing that there is some type of conflict, and as you step away from it or retreat from it, either in time, just as it becomes farther in the past, or in space as you physically walk away from the situation and find somewhere to recover or recuperate or rest, you find yourself feeling an emotion you didn't expect, and this emotion is particularly strong, maybe confusing, or maybe you know why you're having the emotion, but what was unexpected is the intensity of it. Now, with the King of Swords over here, I think that maybe this fight had to do with words or ideas. So there may be a conflict you had with somebody over leadership, or else over some train of logic or reasoning where you disagreed what the correct inference was, or you disagreed about the facts of the situation, or you disagreed about where those facts were leading. So I think that there's somebody that you are butting heads with, and this is a disagreement over the realm of the logical mind. So probably has to do with making a decision or choosing the direction for a group of people, or maybe just for you and this other person. But you've had a conflict with somebody over something along those lines, and now that is receding a little bit. Maybe that conflict happened yesterday or in the recent past. It might even happen in the first part of this day, Thursday. And then you step away from that fight. You retreat either into yourself, or you retreat to a different location where you are removed from that conflict. And as you think about the conflict, whether or not you're trying to think about it, you find your mind going back to it and running over it again, maybe convincing yourself that you were right, or maybe seeing their point of view more now that you've had some time to cool down. Maybe suddenly their logic makes a little bit more sense than it did in the moment. And either way, an unexpected feeling occurs as you're digesting this conflict and reflecting on what happened. It stirs in you an emotion that you didn't feel at the time of the conflict, but are now feeling later on as you look back at the conflict. And this might change your opinion. It might also make you double down harder on your point of view. But even if that's the case, you now understand your own point of view better. If this argument is continued later on, then you might have a different way of stating your argument. In fact, because of these two swords on the left, and I'm kind of reading it left to right, like past, present, future, the way this cup emerges after two swords makes me think that if this was a fight over logic and reason or something along those lines, then maybe what was needed was the feeling of emotion or sensitivity. It had become too logical and too much about the rules or about direct inference, and not enough allowance was given in this conflict for the feelings of the situation or the emotions of the situation. Maybe there's something illogical about one of your arguments that one or both of you was refusing to see because it didn't make sense at the level of reason, but sometimes our emotions or our intuition works in a way that doesn't make a lot of sense, but it can still be very powerful. So you might be seeing a part of this conflict in a different way. It may be that the level of emotions was being neglected before, and that may have been part of your disagreement. Maybe you thought you were disagreeing about something of the mind, or that you had differing reasonings to arrive to different conclusions, but maybe the real split wasn't over reasoning differently. Maybe the real split was over your fundamental feelings. And as you were discussing the conflict, your conversation goes to those tangible, logical things, but maybe the root of the conflict was actually something deeper, more intuitive, something that has to do with your feelings or your emotions more than logic or reason. And now that you have some distance, this might be dawning on you. You also might just be feeling a very new emotion about this conflict. Maybe you were angry at this person at the time of the conflict, but now you are actually starting to realize that you miss them, or that you have a lot of goodwill towards them. Maybe you're starting to realize that the conflict was not as serious as it seems, and that you should go make up with them if it ended in a bad way. But what I'm seeing for sure is that there was some kind of difficulty or conflict, and you have some distance now from that. And as you are gaining that distance, you are feeling something you didn't expect to feel, and a new layer or element to that conflict that wasn't apparent at the time is starting to dawn on you. And the cards are telling you to not ignore this emotion, to let yourself feel it, even if it's quite strong. Maybe wait until it calms down before you go back and interact with this person again. But don't deny it if it doesn't make sense. Instead, let yourself feel it and let yourself process that feeling and figure out what it has to do with that conflict, because no matter what it means, it will be crucial for moving forward past whatever issue happened before. So if you enjoyed this reading, then subscribe to see more. And if you'd like to learn about tarot cards or try some of my interactive online readings, then head on over to foolskey.com where you can check all that out. Thanks for watching, and see you tomorrow.